Cincinnati Zoo Tales. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Mark. Thanks to everyone out there for tuning in to another great episode. Jenna, we're being joined today with an organization you've actually gotten some first-hand experience with recently. We're really excited. We're being joined by a couple members of the Cincinnati Animal CARE Humane Society. So joining us today, we've got Megan Colville, who's the shelter director, Lauren Telepak, who's the volunteer engagement manager, and behind the scenes, Abby Moore is also helping us a little bit with, she's a community engagement coordinator helping us out today as well. But thank you guys so much for joining us. We're really excited to talk about your organization.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We're really excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So we usually like to start off each episode with just a little bit of a story, kind of your personal backgrounds, like what got each of you into this field, what got you, this is obviously a field of passion, right? No one gets into this for money. So what got you so interested and involved in humane care?
Well, I've been in animal sheltering for, I guess it's 14 years now. I started in 2010 out in Los Angeles. My background's education, and so I got into the field through humane education, and then eventually dropped the education part and just stuck with the sheltering. But I've been in shelter leadership, management, director, related roles for about 6 years now.
Wow. So do you find it like it's one of those jobs that it's hard to see some of the things that are happening every day, but I'm also like sure it's very rewarding too. Like, have you found compassion fatigue is a huge part of your life? Like we find that as zookeepers even.
Yeah, compassion fatigue, burnout, straight burnout are both very real in our industry. And I think for myself, I've been kind of probably through the whole gamut of different phases of mental health issues. But it's really about for the longevity of the career, you got to find ways to figure it out.
How have you figured it out? Is it different every year, every day?
Yeah, depends on what's going on. And I've noticed as I've moved more into leadership and more into management, the compassion fatigue is a little different. I'm not hands-on with the animals as much anymore, so I'm not necessarily feeling the animal piece. I feel more the people side of things now. And, it's a lot of decision-making, some decision fatigue for sure. But for me, I tend to just, I've had to really draw some hard lines on the end of the workday and going home and doing something completely unrelated, staying active, finding other things to do that are completely unrelated to animals. I don't even foster myself anymore because once I get home, I need to kind of say, all right, I'm done for the day. I'm going to do other things.
That makes total sense. Do you have dogs or cats of your own?
Dogs, cats. Yeah, okay. I've got animals, and I love spending time with them. So it's just again creating that separation. That's what's really come down to for me.
Yeah.
I feel like for any area of animal care, that's a huge thing. It's like it's so easy to take your work home with you, right? It's so easy to let it affect you when you're at dinner and you're still thinking about your animals or whatever it may be. So I like that you're able to kind of draw that distinction. I'm taking notes of this right now.
I will say it's challenging though. It's not easy. It's something I have to remind myself of every day. But just being able to do that's I've had to work at it. But it's even days when I'm loving it, I've had the best day ever, I want to go home and keep working, I have to say no and I have to stop. So it's definitely some discipline related to that.
Yeah. Lauren, what about you? What's your story?
Yeah, so I have a bit of a different story. I do not come from an animal shelter background. I'm actually in familiar grounds right now. I started here at the zoo when I was about 14 in the education department as a volunteer and really kind of fell in love with the education side, and through that ended up stumbling into volunteer management a little bit, and it was a great way to combine my passion for education but also serving our community. So I worked with our volunteer educators here at the zoo for a number of years, and then worked at Great Parks as well as a volunteer coordinator. So just recently I started with the shelter, so I'm pretty new to the shelter world, and it's been a really fun experience getting to learn, and there's such a fascinating history both locally in our community with the animal shelter, but also just nationally. A lot of really cool history I've gotten to learn through Megan a lot, because she has such a great background in shelters.
So there's a lot that I don't really think a lot of people know goes on, and I was wondering what is the difference between CARE and the SPCA, and can you guys just kind of give us an overview of what you guys do, what CARE does, and the difference, or what people might need to know?
Yeah, Jenna, that's a really, really good question. A lot of people don't know what's going on with animal sheltering, probably in general. A lot of people tend to still think about kind of the pound and the dog catcher, sort of that old 1950s style of animal sheltering. I think a lot of people think of sadness, a lot of people think of death, a lot of animals being maybe euthanized in shelters. So there's really a lot of negative thoughts around animal sheltering, and that's completely appropriate. That's really where sheltering was for half a century in the United States. Really, since around 2000-ish, things have been changing, and they've been changing for the better. Mass euthanasias are no longer acceptable in most of the communities around the country, and there's been a real shift toward what a lot of people are familiar with, which is no kill, and that phrase has really kind of caught the attention of the community, of the general public, because it's pretty simple to understand, and then most people can get behind that. No kill, of course we want no killing, but a lot goes into that. And so right here in Cincinnati, we have a bit of a unique situation. The SPCA Cincinnati ran the county shelter for 60 years. They took it over in 1962, and they've been running it ever since. And in 2020, they decided they would no longer run the county shelter. And when we talk about a county shelter, that's somebody who is receiving government funds to run the shelter. Here in Ohio, every shelter has to have a dog warden service, which is animal control, and they have to have housing for stray dogs. And that's it. So when you think of shelters today where there's cat programming and fostering and volunteer opportunities and all the things that come with sheltering now in 2024, the state of Ohio still does not require that.
Wow.
And so what a lot of shelters, or what a lot of counties do, and Hamilton County is no different, is they partner with the Humane Society to kind of take it from there. So the county pays us. We have the contract now, Cincinnati Animal CARE. Again, we took over from the SPCA in 2020. We run the county shelter. They pay us. We're the only Hamilton County group that receives any kind of government funding, just for dog warden and for stray dogs.
How did that come about? Like, how did that happen?
The change?
Yes.
The SPCA just decided to step away. I think it was part of their plan for a little while. Again, as I alluded, kind of mentioned at the beginning, a lot of animal shelter, the association with the dog catcher, animal control is often not a good one.
Yeah.
And I think the SPCA had, they'd kind of been down that road, and they were kind of like, we're done with it. We don't want that contract anymore. And so now they're in a great place. I mean, they've been around for 100 years, literally. So they've been able to build up just kind of a bank account and be able to go run a private shelter. So they still exist. They're running out of the Sharonville shelter that they have, and they run just as a private shelter. So they're completely funded by donations and things like that. Again, we're at Cincinnati Animal CARE, we were actually formed to bid on the contract. So the core group of us were running the Claremont County shelter, and when the contract came open, it actually sat open for about a year with no bidders. I think that people were onto something. This is very hard. So I think somebody knew something we didn't, maybe, but the group of us over in Claremont said, if nobody else is bidding, we're going to take a shot at it. So about a year after the SPCA announced they were no longer going to be renewing, Cincinnati Animal CARE was formed, and we were in the building operating within about 8 weeks.
Wow.
So it was a very quick turnaround, and we were, at the time, it was the middle of COVID, and we were running the Claremont shelter. So there was a lot going on during that period.
Oh my gosh.
It's a character building. We learned a lot, and we're still learning a lot. The Hamilton County Animal Shelter is it's the big stage. I mean, there's a lot of animals coming through that building every year. We got about 7,000. We should have more, but we have some programs that I'm sure we'll talk about that keep animals hopefully out of the shelter. But that's really what's going on. So the SPCA ran the shelter for 60 years. They decided no longer to run it. The contract sat open, and Cincinnati Animal CARE bid on it and won the bid. So we now run the county shelter.
Pardon my ignorance, but when you say Cincinnati Animal CARE bid, or we bid, the group from Claremont County, was that like your own private money, or where is this? We didn't bid with any money.
Okay. We just put together a proposal saying this is what we can bring.
Okay.
These are our philosophies.
And then
this is our success. We've been able to do this in Claremont County, which is about 4 times smaller in every way, from budgeting to population to animal intake, all that stuff. And we said we think we can replicate the success we're having in Claremont in Hamilton County. So the commissioners saw the bid, they decided to give us a shot.
Okay.
We were very clear with them. We have no money.
Okay.
We have not.
How did you do that?
We hadn't even. We only had about an 8 week runway. So to put together an organization means to file it with the government, to put together a board, to make sure we have staffing.
I was saying, how did you even have the employees if half of you were coming from another shelter? Like, was Claremont
we
then?
inherited. So SPCA had 2 buildings. If you're from Cincinnati, you're probably familiar with the old Coleraine shelter over in North Side.
Okay.
And we inherited that building. The SPCA still owns it today.
Okay, so that's
So we're operating out of there, and we inherited all the staff from there. So we were off to a really good start. We got a great team that started. We borrowed a few people from Claremont. We hired a few extras, and we were off hitting the ground running. And I think what we're really most proud of is we were a no-kill shelter on day one. So that euthanasias for no reason, just euthanizing healthy animals. It ended on that day. So on August 1st, 2020 was the day since Animal Care came in, and we're still running, still going as of today. So we're hoping to be the county shelter for the next 60 years.
That's amazing. My what I call like my heart dog was from Claremont County Animal Shelter. Yeah. But sorry, anyways, it just was very special to me. That was a very nice shelter, and it did seem a little less like hectic than
probably
than CARE since I've been. But I mean, you guys have so many dogs, and you said there are less dogs at Claremont County. Is it location? Why do you think CARE is taking in so many more dogs? Is it because we're more in the heart of the city, or you're more in
I think the population, the human population definitely matters.
Okay.
The Hamilton County is one of the largest counties in the state. So we're naturally going to take in more animals. I think that we're really kind of on staying about the same pace of intake as we did over the last couple of years. We're not seeing a huge increase after COVID.
I was wondering if...
But to be honest, over the last half century, the numbers have gone way down, frankly.
Really?
Wow. Yeah, probably 10 years ago, there was more like 12,000 animals coming in, 15,000 animals coming in. There was a point where there was about 30,000 animals coming into the Hamilton County shelter several decades ago. So to get it below, to be in the kind of 6,000 to 8,000 range is where we're at, but it's still way more than a lot of the surrounding shelters. I do think part of the intake or the intake that we see can be from being a no-kill shelter and being what a lot of people would consider a safe place
to drop off
an animal. But really we tend to focus mostly on the stray dogs at this point because we have to take them. That's part of our contract. So we don't have the flexibility that a lot of other shelters have, or a lot of other rescues have either.
The pick and choose, or
right. And so a lot of shelters and rescues, if you don't have a contract with the county or with a government or municipal municipal city or county, you're able to manage your intake and say no and kind of pick and choose here and there. But with us, it's that stray dog intake just does not stop. And if somebody shows up and says it's stray, we have to take it.
I was surprised when I was reading a little bit about it, the fact that Hamilton County, for such a huge county population-wise, it only has one funded shelter. Is that common for other cities across the country? Is that the typical thing?
Yeah, I think when you talk about shelter versus organization, that's kind of sort of two different things. So before, as I just said, the SPCA has the Sharonville building, and they still own the Coleraine building. So the SPCA was actually operating 2 facilities. So they, at one point or another, I believe the Sharonville building is about 15 years old. They determined that the one location was not enough. It wasn't big enough, and they expanded to the 2. We are now back down to just 1. We have recently opened up a second facility. I won't call it a shelter yet. It's just to help us with that overflow. The Coleraine building, again, was built in the 60s. It has about 100 kennels that are really what we would consider any level of humane housing because they have indoor-outdoor access. But any other animals that we add to that building right now are going into smaller kennels, pop-up crates, that type of thing. And so to have that overflow space, it's about 4 minutes down the road in Northside. We have the county had a big warehouse that we were able to sort of move into. They weren't really using it. So we're using that space as well. And they're currently working on retrofitting it and getting it set up as a shelter, but it currently really isn't. And it's nice to have the space, but it's a real struggle to house animals there.
Roughly how many dogs and how many employees or people helping each day do you have?
We've got on site between the two buildings, we've got about 250 dogs. And we've got cats really fluctuate, but I'd say anywhere between 30 to 100 cats. I mean, again, when I say fluctuate, it really does flow back and forth. We're about to enter kitten season. This podcast is being recorded here in April, so we're about to get into kitten season, which sounds cute, but it's not. It's not my favorite thing. We just get a lot of kittens that are born during the summer months, the warmer months. So again, we fluctuate a lot with the cats. But with staff, we've had to, with the second building, we've really had to add a lot of staffing to that. So in terms of caring for the animals, we've got anywhere from maybe 3 to 4 people caring for the cats every day. And between the two buildings with the dogs, probably upwards of 15, 16 staff.
Which is a lot, but still not a lot considering how many dogs you
have.
And
I mean, I like to look at it as being like as a school setting. If you as a teacher with a classroom of kids, the kids are only get as much attention as that one teacher can provide. And so if you lower that class number, the kids get a lot more personal attention. That class number grows, the kids are not getting a lot of personal attention. And that's really what we're seeing at the shelter. If we can get that on-site population lowered, those dogs that are on site start getting more attention, and they get more individualized time with the people that are there. So that's really, I think, probably our biggest struggle, and really a way that people can really help.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we can get dogs off-site at CARE, and how we can, help with this problem in general. Maybe, people can't take a dog into their home for whatever reason, and also the resources that you guys do provide to people who are fostering or adopting dogs. Like, that's an open-ended question, but
Lauren, you want to talk a little bit about our opportunities to volunteer?
Yeah, and so Megan mentioned we have obviously a number of staff on site, but we also have anywhere from 5 to 20 volunteers a day potentially. Okay. So that is a huge, huge help. And I think something we always emphasize is we need community solutions. The 90 employees, the however many we have, can't take care of every animal. The 8,000 plus potentially we get every year. So we need the community support, and volunteering is a big way that we get that, and I hope a fun way too. It's a great way for people to get involved and really make a difference, and you can immediately see the difference that you make, because every dog is a life, and the more hands-on, the more individualized attention they get, the better their outcome will be. So we have a ton of different opportunities. Volunteers support us every day. From some of the things you might think about, like laundry and dishes, I always kind of joke it's our bread and butter. They're not the glamorous tasks. Maybe you guys can relate to.
Yeah, we know how that goes. It's got to get done, right?
But it has to get done. So we have some dedicated volunteers who help with that a lot. We have a really great group of dog walkers who work to get our animals out every day out of their kennels and help with different enrichment opportunities for them. Our cat care has a ton of opportunities as well. But we have other volunteers and fosters who will take dogs out for the day, give them a break, have a fun time, and it greatly increases their chances of adoption as well. So that's an opportunity not as many people are aware of, that you can come and take a dog for a little puppy date. And it's greatly beneficial, both hopefully for the human, but also for the animal as well.
I definitely want to talk about the day trips more, but for volunteering, what kind of commitment does somebody have to make to that? Because, for example, I would love to come after work and get an hour of exercise walking dogs. Is that an option, or how much dedication do you have to have? Are there classes or orientations you do first?
I try to keep it as open as possible and try to lower as many barriers as possible, but also keeping into consideration safety, because that's something we really need to think about. In general, I don't have a strict, you need to be here 3 hours every month, and if you aren't, you are booted, because that's what people can give is going to vary for everyone. So, but in general, we have opportunities from 9 to 6, so 7 days a week, so it is pretty flexible on when you can come and what you can help out with. We do have an initial orientation that we ask to attend, and honestly, we cover some of the stuff we're talking about today. Just, I think having that history background and understanding is really important. And then from there, depending on what you're interested in, there could be additional training that we ask you to take. Again, we just want to make sure that everyone is safe and properly trained. But that's kind of our process. But once you're in, once you're done, again, there's so many things you can jump in on pretty much any day of the week from morning to early evening.
Yeah, I think it's important. Remember, there's so much needs to get done every day. It doesn't really matter who does it. So if even just coming in and helping with the laundry and the dishes, that frees up staff to go exercise the dogs and spend more time with them and get them out and train them and things like that. So I think one barrier that we see people have is they don't want to handle the animals, because I think a lot of people, like Lauren said, that's the first thought, is that the only way you can help is hands-on. You got to be there walking dogs. And some people just don't want to do that, or they can't do that. There are plenty of ways to get involved besides that. And so I think that's definitely a barrier. And I think also people getting nervous about it's so sad. They don't want to see the animals, which is, for some people, really motivating. The only way we get them out is through the power of people. But there's a lot of opportunities even off-site. People can do a lot of things at home that are going to be helpful as well.
And what are the age requirements for volunteers? Do you have to meet a minimum age?
Yeah, so 13 is our minimum age right now. And volunteers 13 to 17 can work with our cats, as well as kind of more of those behind-the-scenes role, or at some of like our adoption events or our special events. And then once you hit 18, the opportunity is there to work with our dogs hands-on if that's something that you'd be interested in.
That's awesome, though, because that allows kind of like, I remember when I was in high school-age kids, I would do community service hours, and like for me, I would have loved to do something like that for my community service hours. Come hang out with some cats, maybe do some dishes, and call it.
Like we mentioned, the fostering a dog for a day, or like it's almost like renting happiness for a day. Like you can just go like for 5 hours, take a dog and go do something fun with them and make their day, which makes your day feel better. So that's kind of like how I started getting more interested in care, was I heard that you could do day trips, because I'm like, we want another dog, we're not necessarily ready for a dog, but we miss having one in our life, and I learned about the day trips, and so I would love if you guys talk more about those and the opportunities and how that helps the dogs.
Yeah.
And Abby, I know you said you're going to just kind of watch today, but feel free if you want to jump in at all.
Yeah, day trips are such a fun opportunity, especially like for those maybe who can't own a dog for whatever reason. Maybe they're in school, they have restrictions in their apartment. If you still want that like just happiness, that little like piece of happiness in your life, it's a good option. And I think too, for those who maybe are considering adopting, it's a really great way to learn an animal's personality outside of the shelter, and a little test drive to see if that could be a good fit. But in general, day trips are something we do every day. People can schedule a time to come in and pick up a dog. And from there, it's kind of up to you what you want to do. Some people enjoy taking them to a park, maybe to like a brewery. But we have a lot of our day trippers who will just take them home and take a nap. Sometimes they need that time. Really, they just need that time to decompress, because we talk about this a lot, but a shelter is not a home, and it's not, any day they're there is a day too long. So even just getting out for a nap is an option. So there's really no limit to what you can do as a day tripper. It's kind of up to you and what you're feeling, but it's a fun thing to jump in on, and it makes a huge difference. There's some statistics that say dogs that go on day trips are 5 times more likely to get adopted. So it's amazing. A huge help. Helps get our numbers down and get animals out and into their forever homes.
I think it's really awesome because the flexibility is great. And I'll be honest, like I was worried, like, will I be able to take this dog back and not feel awful, like abandoning them, or like, and I've had a lot of people ask me like, how do you do that? But the more I'm asking questions and learning, it's like 5 hours of napping in peace is better than hanging out at the shelter for 5 hours with dogs barking, or the fact that there are statistics and you can get really great photos of them and share them with the community, get to know them, help the shelter know like the dogs better, how they did in the home, how did they do in the car. And of course, I would love to talk more about fostering long-term too, and the 3-3-3 rule, where you're going to see personality changes over time. A dog coming from the shelter is probably nervous and like, exhausted and needs time to decompress. But I love the opportunity that you get to see how they are at home, and maybe they're a great dog but not a great fit for you. Or, maybe you can tell that you want a dog that would love to hike, and this dog is like, no thank you. Or the opposite. I think it's a really great way to, like you said, a test drive, because there are so many fantastic dogs, and I don't know how we ever stop the overbreeding of dogs. I don't know how you stop, but
That's another podcast.
Yes. There are so many wonderful dogs in the shelter, and I think people are scared and they don't show well at the shelter, right? Like, they're going to walk by and one dog starts barking because they're excited and they want you to take them out, and then the next dog starts barking because that dog's barking. Like, you aren't going to get the best version or the, like, calmest version of a dog there, but they need a chance. And I think the fostering and the day trips give them that chance to see them outside of the shelter.
Well, I think something that's really a big shift in animal sheltering over the last maybe last 10 years or so is fostering. There's a hashtag that was going around for a while, about a couple years ago, that was fostering is the future. The goal really for a lot of organizations throughout the country is to eliminate shelters. And just have every animal stays in the community and it stays in foster homes. We're probably a little ways away from that, but we'd love to see that. If the shelter, as Lauren said, it is not a home. The staff at Cincinnati Animal CARE does such great work. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of the work we do, but it's not a home at the end of the day, no matter what we do. So to get these cats and dogs into homes, as you said, we get to learn about their personalities. They get to take a break and just be who they are and not be woken up by barking and loud noises and people coming all day. So it's so beneficial. And you mentioned people that maybe are a little nervous to do it, or they think it's going to be really sad or hard to return them. I encourage everybody to focus on the good that is happening. Yes, it's hard. It is hard to bring an animal back. It is hard to see them in a kennel. Absolutely. But the difference you can make for that one dog, that one cat, for any amount of time is so beneficial to them. It's better, to get out with you for a couple hours is way better than just sitting there. So to really lean on the fact that you did something really, really important for that animal, to me is why we do this.
And, since I mentioned in the last episode, I don't know if anybody heard, but I've recently started fostering a dog through CARE, and so now I'm a part of, like, a group, and saw somebody mention something that made a lot of sense, that, like, I feel guilty because we're not home enough. That's one of the reasons I haven't committed to getting a full-time dog. But, like, even getting them out of, if they're in a crate for 10 hours while you're at work, and then you get them out for 4 hours, 4 hours out of a crate in a home on a nice couch, or even on the ground if you don't want them on your furniture, or outside in your backyard going for walks, 4 hours is insanely better than 30 minutes at the shelter or whatever they're able to get that day. So, like, focusing on... Even if you can't be the perfect owner, it could still be better in a home than at the shelter.
Well, we have people that come to us and say they can no longer keep their pet because they're not home enough. And we'll say the same thing. 10 hours in a crate at your house is better than 24 hours at the shelter. So, kind of having that perspective for people that really want to do the right thing. They want to be good pet owners and they want to be good fosters. You can do a lot by just doing a little. And I think keeping that in mind is important.
And I think CARE is a great way to foster because there's a little more flexibility. Like, I know some other rescues, which I think is great in their own way, but they'll, like, you have to attend certain adoption events, or you have to, see the dog through their adoption. But there are short-term fosters and the day trips, and I just love that there are a lot of different options for people through CARE to do, big or small, the difference that they're available, or able to do.
Yeah, we recognize people have different lifestyles and different abilities and different, different needs when it comes to being able to help. And so we don't want to turn somebody away just because they can't, commit to a certain amount of time or a certain process that we have. We're here to support you. We're here to help every foster get what they, what they need out of the situation, and also help those animals. So I agree. I think that's one of the best things that we offer as well, is just that flexibility.
Yeah.
You can take a dog for a day, for a night, for 2 weeks, for a year. Hopefully it's not a year, but
unless you adopt them.
Yeah, unless you adopt. Hopefully we get them adopted before that year point. But it's anything helps, and we're really embracing anybody who shows up and says, "Hey, I can do X, Y, and Z." We'll take it.
So as far as, like, the dog populations and the things that you guys are doing, you also have a medical team. Are there options for spay and neuter? Can you talk about, like, opportunities that people are fostering? Do they have to pay for it? That sort of thing. Like, just give a little more info on what you guys do as far as medical and other departments.
We've got an incredible medical team. I don't think there's probably very few medical departments in the country that are at the level that ours is at. We're very proud of them. They everything's free when you foster. We take care of it all. You may need to come in for an appointment for vaccines for the pet that you have, the cat or the dog. So we may need you to commit to that. Just coming in, but we schedule it around whatever times you're available. But no, anything that comes along or anything that's needed, our team is responsive. We actually have a foster phone as well, so if there's something that happens in the middle of the night, you're able to reach somebody and get direction. Because I mentioned earlier that we've got about 250 dogs on site. We have about 250 dogs in foster as well.
Oh, wow.
So that really is a whole program, literally a program of its own when it comes to caring for them. Sure, they're out of the building, but they still have a lot of needs. They still have vaccines they need. They still get spayed and neutered. They still have, different maybe behavior questions people have and things like that. So we have to run operations sort of dueling and kind of competing priorities about the ones that are on site and then also the ones that are off site and making sure we have, providing what we need for them to be successful as well, because it looks very different.
Yeah, and that's an amazing resource because I feel like that's part of, at least from people I've talked to that have fostered, part of the hesitation is like, well, I've never done this before. I've never gotten a dog or a cat before. What am I going to do if something goes wrong? And to have that resource available is amazing. Yeah.
It's kind of a fun way to just, if you've never had a pet, to just come and foster one and see how it goes. It's very not low commitment, and you're able to really have a team supporting you. Jenna, you mentioned the foster community we have. Yeah. I mean, we've got over 2,000 people on our Facebook page. Wow. People are always making, posting questions. How can I do this? Hey, getting just I think we are very organically, Cincinnati Animal CARE is a very supportive network of people that are, helping each other out.
For the spay, if an animal comes in, do you automatically spay or neuter them just to help with the population, or how does that work?
Yeah, with dogs, we have a stray hold, so we have to we play around with that. Dogs have a 3-day stray hold if they have no identification on. It's longer if they are wearing a valid license, a valid Hamilton County license, or whatever county they're from. But yeah, our policy is to spay neuter all the animals before they go. Now we do have. Because of the number of animals coming in and the lack of spay-neuter appointments that we have, we sometimes do something called pre-adopts, and we will send animals into their adoptive home really almost as fosters. And then once that appointment comes along, the adopter comes, brings the animal back, and then we finalize the adoption from there. Okay. So we're pretty caught up right now. We've got a good partnership with Bissell. They've been incredible and really been sending high-volume spay-neuter surgeons to work on site. Great. The last maybe 3 or 4 months, and we've been able to get caught up on some of those pre-adopts. But I mean, ideally, no animal leaves without being spayed or neutered. But we're not going to hold them in the building until that happens.
Yeah, we just hit our 1,000th in-house surgery last week, so super exciting. Needed a medical team and our volunteers. Couldn't have done it without them, but definitely a big focus of ours.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a huge benchmark because Jenna, you touched on it earlier, but it seems like the issue of increasing number of stray cat and dog populations out there, there's no controlling it almost. So the fact that you guys are able to provide that spay and neuter service is awesome. I also read that you guys offer microchipping as well.
Yeah, microchipping is like where it's at. You get it. We scan microchips. There's a little grain of rice sized chip that usually goes just between the shoulder blades of the animal, and it just has contact information for the owner. It's not anything else besides that. Some people get nervous about what it could be, but we highly, highly, highly recommend microchipping. It's the first thing we do when a stray comes in is scan them for a chip, and if we can get that owner's information, we can call and get that animal home within an hour sometimes. Our officers, we have our dog warden that I mentioned earlier, they're out in the field, they scan as well. So there's actually animals that have never even made it to the shelter because out in the field, out in the community, our officers are scanning, figuring out who the owner is, and getting them home from there. But we offer it as what people can bring their pet in, and we have microchipping services. But you can get it done at your vet office as well.
Yeah, that's a great one, Jenna. I'm a big cat person.
Yeah,
and
I keep talking. I focus on dogs.
I have friends and family tell me like, my cat's just an inside cat. It doesn't need to be microchipped. And it's like, well, you never know if your cat's going to end up scooting through your legs and going out the door, and you lose it one day, and that microchip comes in handy.
Oh, yeah. I'm very fortunate. I've never lost a pet, but they're all chipped. I mean, I absolutely, tags come off. It's definitely the best way to ensure that you're going to get your pet back. And I would remind everybody, if you've moved recently, to make sure you update your information. If you get a new phone number, because we do get those as well. We get a microchip hit, and then we try to call the number and it's disconnected, or the people have moved. So that's always unfortunate, because somebody did the right thing. They got their pet microchipped, and then we just can't, we can't make contact. So we don't want pets at the shelter. We want to get them back to you. But you had mentioned the spay neutering. One thing that's happened a lot in the last couple of years through COVID is a lot of the spay neuter clinics shut down, and we've seen a big uptick just as a country with new, young puppies, a lot of puppies and kittens as well, but being born. And I think that's who's coming into the shelters these days. A lot of people think that maybe animals are being returned from COVID. They're not. We would know that because they'd be microchipped. So we would know who's coming back. These are a lot of animals coming in that are not microchipped, 2 to 3 years old. That's probably our biggest.
And they've just been living on the street, surviving for that long?
Probably not. They probably were, just been in homes or been, just been.
Oh,
maybe,
but like people didn't get out and about to get a microchip.
Yeah, people didn't get a microchip. People didn't get them spayed or neutered, and that's really, I think, the effect of COVID on animal sheltering is the clinics shutting down has increased, the number of animals that are not spayed and neutered.
Is there any thought that they'll start opening back up, or
they have been? Yeah, they're back. And Cincinnati is very fortunate. We have 2 high volume spay neuter clinics in town. Some communities don't have any. So UCAN and OAR are both. We work with them closely and appreciate that partnership.
So I know that there are different ways that people can meet dogs. And cats. I'm so bad.
Come on, Jenna.
And one is to come to the shelters and just walk around. There's also the Pet Adoption Center that you can go to on Saturdays and Sundays. I should let you guys talk about it. But also, I recently saw something that you can meet and greet pets like on Zoom or via Zoom.
That's like a newer thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you guys want to talk about all those options, how people might be able to find the one?
Yeah, well, Lauren said we're open 7 days a week. We're open to the public from 1 to 6 every day. But we do have our Pet Adoption Center over in Pleasant Ridge. It's in the Lowe's parking lot. So that's a great place for fosters to bring their dogs to get adopted. But yeah, coming on site, going to the Pet Adoption Center, going to any events we go to. If you follow us on social media, Cincinnati Animal CARE, follow us on social media, you'll find out about all the events that we're at, and you can meet pets there as well. But we did recently start a Zoom meet and greet system that we're still trying out, but a lot of shelters throughout the country have had some success with it.
Okay.
Especially with cats. It's a great way to, it's hard to go meet a cat in a foster home.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to bring it back to the shelter. That's kind of weird. I don't, where would we even put them? But you may not go to the foster's home either. So it's a great way to just do a quick Zoom call or a FaceTime with a potential adopter. So just trying to get creative, trying to find ways to make it easier for people, really decrease barriers to adoption and help people find it. We'll figure it out. If there's a way that you want to meet an animal, we will figure it out.
And then you have your website where people can look at all of their photos. And I found that to be a little overwhelming because how do you choose just from a picture? So that's why I think it's great when you can go and meet them and or talk to a foster or do the Zoom or the Pet Adoption Center.
And
speaking of
I was just going to say our front desk staff too is really good with matchmaking. Like if you come in and you're like, this is kind of what I'm looking for. They probably have a list. Okay, we're going to get you to meet this.
Yep. Well, that's a big thing. Even with our volunteers and with our staff, they get to know the animals.
Yeah.
We collect that information, and then we do some matchmaking at our front desk, trying to figure out the right fit for whoever's looking.
Yeah, we have to play detective a lot because they come in and we don't know anything about the animal. We don't know their history and often where they come from. So we have to build that story, and our volunteers and staff, do a great job with that, and our fosters.
Yeah, really valuable with that. And speaking of kind of the photos that you guys provide online, I saw online also you provide like a lost and found list, right, on your website. I thought that was really cool that you guys are trying to facilitate, like you mentioned, animals that do have homes out there. Let's get them found. Let's try and facilitate a way for the owners to get back these animals.
Yeah, that's, in some ways, that's really our number one goal. If the animal already has a home, let's just keep them there. Yeah. But there are a lot of barriers for people to find their pets sometimes. I think part of, one thing I appreciate with any opportunity to come speak about Cincinnati Animal CARE is just the confusion that we talked about at the very beginning. We still have people that call the SPCA saying, hey, I lost my pet. They don't have your pet. They're no longer they're not housing stray dogs anymore. They're not taking in. They may take in some stray cats, possibly, but that's not where you go. You go to Cincinnati Animal CARE now, and some people don't know that. Some people don't have transportation. Some people don't have internet. So just really trying to figure out ways where we can reach everybody and make sure that we will help you get your pet back. People often think also that maybe they can't afford it. They assume that there's hundreds of dollars in fees to come pick up your pet. We will work with people. We will kind of meet you where you are to make sure that we get that pet back to you.
Do you guys have a program too where if somebody might be struggling financially that you will help them out to get through tough times?
Yeah, we have a community support program that's really built for exactly that. We've got some funding from some national partners that help us really keep families together. That's kind of the tagline. We want to make sure that if somebody doesn't want to give up their pet, that they don't have to. We're going to do everything we can to help them. It's easier when we have more notice. It's hard when somebody shows up and said, I'm getting evicted today at 4:00. We'll scramble and try to see what we can do. But if somebody is really truly wants to keep their pet, we'll do whatever we can to assist with that. We know people go through hard times. We know, things can fall apart pretty quickly. If we can provide that boost and provide that support and that safety net, we will do that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
This is putting you on the spot, but do you guys have any fun or crazy stories that have happened that you can think of, or just really happy reunions or
Fetty. Do you remember? She was just returned to her owner after a year or something, right? I don't know the details behind that, but Abby can chime in.
So Fetty was a dog. He was with us for, I want to say, close to 6 to 7 months.
Came in as a stray.
He came in as a stray. He wasn't microchipped, didn't have any tags on him, so we weren't able to contact the owner. With all of the stray dogs that come in, we post on Facebook as well. We have a Facebook Lost and Found page, which is a very good resource for people to go to if they're looking. So we posted him on there. We posted him on our Lost and Found page, and he had been adoptable for 6 months. He was in our adoption runs. Really cute dog, fan favorite. I mean, volunteers loved him, staff loved him. He was a really funny dog. And randomly, his owner just saw his picture on Facebook when we posted that he was adoptable and contacted our social media manager and said, I think this is my dog. Came in, showed proof that it was her dog with the 2 dogs, had some pictures of him and the 2 other resident dogs in the home. And she was able to come in less than 24 hours to come get him back.
Goosebumps.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
Did he just sneak out or?
Yeah, she said that he got out. I don't know the full details if she was out of town or if she was at work or something, but he got out and she didn't know where to look, kind of like what Megan was alluding to before. She didn't know what resources were available to find her dog. But luckily she just randomly saw him on Facebook because we post our adoptable animals pretty frequently, and so he lucked out.
He got lucky. And she got lucky. We've had a few others as well from out of state. We had a French bulldog that came in a couple, maybe about 2 months ago, that was microchipped. He was microchipped, but I think we couldn't reach the owner. But then the owner ended up seeing him on Facebook again. So another Facebook story.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the owner was living down in Florida, and somehow the dog ended up in Cincinnati.
Wow.
So he flew up. He came up the next day, got on a plane, flew up and got his dog back.
We had a husky like that too. The owner was in California, and the husky somehow ended up in our care. And when we called, the dog had been rehomed, but he was willing to come get it again because he literally was the day before I was just thinking of how much I miss it. And so I want to say it was from California, flew up and got the dog again.
Wow.
There's a lot of definitely heartfelt stories,
Yeah.
which keeps us going. But some fun ones, this is a few days after I think I started at my job. It was a Belgian Malinois, one of those dogs come in, and we tracked it down, and it was a bomb detection dog that somehow got into our care.
No way.
I think we would be amiss, too, not to mention, what's the serval's name?
Amory.
Amory.
That was my first
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Every once in a while we get exotics. I mean, again, we're at the county shelter, so we don't just deal in cats and dogs. We really we'll take anything in. Doesn't mean we'll keep it. We often try to reach out to our partners, and the Cincinnati Zoo actually helped us out with a serval cat that came in.
He ended up there first.
Yeah, he came to us with he had a busted shoulder, needed some medical attention, and he was on drugs actually as well.
Cocaine.
And
Literally.
and our team was able to kind of get him just triaged. And we reached out just through local partnerships, and were able to get a hold of the zoo here in Cincinnati Zoo. And your team took him because we can't house. We can hold him for like a night. But he was. They just put him in our cat area. So there's all of our normal cats, like all of our domestic cats, and then there's Big Serval in his cage there. So. We rely a lot on partners when we're dealing with exotic animals. We've had monkeys come through. We've had
we had a goose the other day.
Yeah, we have different animals that come through. So when you're dealing with the animal shelter, the county shelter, and animal control, you could
wind up with anything.
Yeah, you could end up with anything at any point.
If you are considering joining our team as a volunteer or anything, I can guarantee you'll never have a boring day. There's always something going on.
Well, and I think it's important too to keep in mind, we're all at this table. We're all animal lovers, and that's why we're into what we do. But there's so many great stories where people are impacted. I mean, it's fun to see the animal go home and see the dog go home, but it's for me, it's seeing the people how excited they are to see their pet to be reunited, for a really great adoption to go through, and the kid gets excited, and it's where people are. We really believe people are the answer. Every animal that comes through our doors has a person attached. Either somebody couldn't care for them anymore, or they need somebody to come and get them, whether it's through adoption or through. So it's that people piece that I think gets lost a little sometimes with animal sheltering, because again, everybody's here for the animals. So it's important that we, for Cincinnati Animal CARE, to really we focus a lot on the people side of it as well.
That's awesome.
Do you have trivia today?
I do not have trivia, but I do have a couple just statistics that I saw on your guys' website that I just wanted to share just to highlight the work you guys do. These are just for 2024 so far, through February. So 2 months into 2024, you guys took in 784 dogs, and 716 of those got either adopted or fostered out, which is incredible.
Mind. I'm bad with numbers, but I can't. How many people live in Cincinnati?
850,000. Well, in the county.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess, I'm like, how are there enough owners to have? But there are. There are plenty, and we need more, of course.
Yeah.
But that's a lot to be adopted.
Absolutely.
To interrupt again, is there like an average length of how long a dog is in a shelter, or is it so varied? Like they could be there one day. And
that's a good question.
I mean, it's individual, like dog to dog, it varies very widely. We have a wide range, but if our goal is, if we were really sharp and we're able to really be at the level we want to be at, it would be, we'd be talking like less than a week.
Wow.
But we've been more around the 30-day mark, 30 plus, 45-day kind of range for a while, and we want to get them out of there. But we also have fostering, so there's a lot that goes into that length of stay, and whether it's about on site or whether it's the foster time as well.
It's just interesting. I wish I could somehow poll the country and be like, when you're thinking of getting a dog, do you think of going to the shelter or do you think of purchasing a dog? Like, you don't see, and cats.
I think most people think of purchasing, though, is the surprising thing to me, because like we've talked about this whole podcast, like so many animals need homes out there that are in shelters. Yeah.
But you don't see like pet stores with animals as often, and most of the cats that I see are like, I feel like up for adoption, or it's different.
Cats are a little different, I think. Okay. I think most cats are either acquired just because they showed up, or people tend to go to shelters a little bit more. It's the dogs that I think struggle a little bit more with people wanting specific breeds, maybe having some bias toward other breeds, or even bias just toward shelter animals in general. Something must be wrong with them. They got dropped off there. Nobody wants them. There's something wrong with them. I was trying to
think about like why a shelter animal, other than like I mentioned, the presence, like they're hyped up, they're a little bit stressed out. Of course, they're not going to give you their best self in that, but that makes sense. Like people are thinking.
Now we've seen just recently, there was a study done last summer by Best Friends, that's a national organization, that shelter adoption has really increased over the last couple decades. However, Gen Z is the first generation that is actually starting to go to breeders more.
Oh, wow.
That we've
I've
seen.
counted on them to save us.
I know. It's so weird.
Come on, Gen Z, yeah.
So that's something that we're looking at internally of why. We don't know why. We don't have any data about why that is. It could be probably social media, like some kind of TikTok thing. I don't know. But they're the first generation that's kind of getting away from the adoption side of pet acquisition. So we're looking at it, I think, as an industry, but also just here in Cincinnati, what can we do to engage that generation and make sure they continue to be supporters of their local shelter.
I was really excited to see that UC has like a foster club or something. I don't know.
I didn't actually know that.
Just randomly came across it on Instagram.
UC and Xavier both are pretty active when it comes to, especially day trips. A lot of
they
college
do.
kids really want to get like a dog out for the day because they're missing their family dog.
If I had
That's awesome.
had that in college, like I knew none of my friends should have a dog in college, but like day trips, that would have been, oh my gosh, right up my alley. So fun. So yeah, I thought that was really cool that those exist.
We do have a lot of UC students in our volunteer program helping with day trips, but I didn't know they had their own little foster like community page. That's cute.
That's amazing. That's amazing. The last stat I have for you, same thing but with cats. So far, through 2 months of the year, you guys took in 355 cats. 355 and 351 got adopted or fostered.
Wow.
And that's just like kudos to you and your team, because that is 98%. Like that is absolutely mind-boggling. When I was reading those statistics, I was like, what is this going to be, 50%? You know, I would thought that would be successful, but to be in the 90s is incredible. So
and
credit to you all.
30 to 100 cats roughly at a time. I honestly am kind of surprised in a good way that it's not higher, just because there are so many cats, but I guess more cats live as strays than dogs. Is that correct? Like,
yeah, and again, we have more options with cats to both maybe keep them in homes. They're a little easier sometimes to try to work that out with somebody. But also they, with a lot of cats are coming in as stray. We've seen a bit of a decrease in cat intake in Cincinnati, at least at the Hamilton County Shelter here at Cincinnati Animal CARE. Some of what we do now is go out into other communities that are struggling. So maybe a county in Indiana that is euthanizing at a high rate. If we've got space, and we will take in some of those cats and try to help out our partners, because it really is a community effort. We're just a real small part of what's happening all around the country, and there's times when we need help. And we rely on our rescue partners. We rely on, we might tell our, people that we work with or at different groups or different rescues or shelters, hey, we need some assistance, and they jump in and help us. So we want to kind of be able to pay that forward. And cats are an area we've been able to do that because our numbers have been a lot lower. Dogs, again.
Do you have any idea why?
No, I don't. I don't know why we don't have as many coming in. But a lot of them are able to just we can redirect to just get spayed and neutered, or spayed or neutered and put back out. Through community cat programming. So if somebody were to reach out to us and they've got a cat that lives outside, they want to get it spayed or neutered, it may not even come to us. We can just direct them to OAR, or you can get that spay and neuter done, and the cat doesn't even have to spend time. Cats can get very sick at the shelter, so even like in a day. So they're very sensitive about that. So if we can keep them out, we'd rather. Again, dogs, we have no choice. If they're stray, they have to come back. Come back in.
That's awesome. I never would have thought about the kind of like fostering partnerships with other organizations aspect of it, though. Like, if you guys are too full, you may lean on them, and vice versa. They're going to lean on you sometimes.
Yeah, so. I mean, historically, shelters have been very siloed. And I think something that some of the national groups like Best Friends, American Pets Alive is another organization that really is starting to bring shelters together and try to find common solutions. We're all going through the same thing.
Right. We want the same outcomes.
Yeah, we all want the same outcomes. So the ability to lean on our partners throughout the country has been a huge part of our success. And frankly, I don't think we would be where we are without them. I don't know if we even would have been on the contract had it not been knowing that we've got that support system.
That's awesome. Well, do you guys have anything else to share with us that we maybe missed touching on, or you wanted
to make sure the community
story
knows?
You wanted to tell or anything? Yeah.
I think we hit a lot of the big highlights.
Yeah.
I think just the biggest emphasis we always try to say is, we need community support. We can't do this alone, and we don't really even view our animals as like Cincinnati Animal CARE animals. They're the county's animals. They're our community's animals, and we need community, we need people solutions. So that's probably the biggest thing we're always trying to emphasize.
Yeah, we like to say life-saving is a community ethic. Since Animal CARE showed up in 2020 and said, hey, this is what our vision is. We want to have a life-saving organization, a life-saving community. But like Lauren said, we can't do it alone. No-kill sheltering, life-saving sheltering is not a bystander sport. You have to get in and you have to get involved. Without the community, we can't do anything. And I think historically that really has been, animal sheltering has been really behind closed doors. People don't know what's going on in the shelter, and they don't know how to get involved, except maybe to adopt, maybe. So that's something that we've, I think, really flipped on its head. Here in Cincinnati, we are highly transparent. The data that you read, we have all its noses in, noses out data on our website every month. It's so important for us to communicate to our community so that you know what is going on at your county shelter. Mm-hmm. These are your animals, Hamilton County. This is your county shelter. We're just here to provide what we can as an organization.
Well, I love what you guys are doing. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We always end with a what can I do? So what can I do? How can I help? We've mentioned a million ways, but if you were going to name one, what can I do?
If I were to name one, I would say come and volunteer. Get in our doors. There's a number of ways you can volunteer, whether it's more of that behind-the-scenes role, whether it's hands-on with their animals. But I think a great gateway is come and take a dog for a day trip. Come and have some fun and get him out and help us learn about that animal. I think it's a good introduction into our organization. And then from there, there's a lot of ways you can grow either as a volunteer or as a foster. But if we're, just thinking of maybe one thing, I think that's a good intro. And we'd love to see you come through our doors.
I started as a day trip foster, and now I'm a long-term foster.
That's how we get you.
You fall in love with the dog, and you're like, no, we'll see this through.
No, definitely. I'm definitely going to have to take you up on the day trip fostering, because as someone who lives in a small apartment, owning a dog isn't very realistic, or even fostering at my home isn't a realistic possibility, but the day trip sounds amazing.
Yeah, just go for a long walk.
Like Lauren said earlier, you'll take any help you can get.
Yeah.
If you've only got 3 or 4 hours to give a week, you guys can make something work with that.
Well, and at the very, very minimum, spread the word. That's
for sure.
If you are unable to assist in any way, physically get on, being on site or helping out, just spreading the word, letting people know that the Cincinnati Animal CARE is the Hamilton County Animal Shelter. That's going to help pets get back home when they go missing. But also just letting people really hopefully understand what's, who are the players here and what is going on in Hamilton County right now with when it comes to animal welfare. There's a lot of exciting things going on.
Well, thank you, ladies, so much for everything you do, for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thank
we
you.
really appreciate everything you do as well at the zoo.
Well, we want to make a difference, and you guys definitely are.
Absolutely, absolutely. The work you do in the community with all the animals, it's inspiring. It's amazing, really.
I hope at least one listener becomes a foster because of us.
If we get one listener to become a foster,
we'll
it's a
add
win.
it to our list
it's
of why you're fostering.
Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for coming, and thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great day.
Yeah, until next time, take care, everyone.